The taste of betrayal is a freezing cold blade that lingers long after life fades away. 20 long years passed while my soul drifted helplessly through the endless vacuum of the void. Suddenly, a blinding flash of golden light ruptured my eternal slumber and pulled me downward. My eyes snapped open as air rushed violently back into a set of completely unfamiliar lungs. I stared at my hands, realizing they were far too small and lacked the calluses of a warrior. A translucent holographic status screen materialized before me, flickering with neon blue characters. The name on the screen read Asai Kioske, a level 1 student with abysmal core attributes. My ultimate time manipulation abilities from my past life as Misado were completely gone. In their place sat a single unique trait labeled simply as the Void attribute. According to world memory, society labeled this specific attribute as the most useless garbage in history. They believed it was a broken magic pool that immediately dissolved any elemental spell cast into it. But as the former strongest hunter, I recognized its true nature as an infinite canvas for imagination. I closed my eyes and envisioned a basic flame, structuring its heat and composition from memory. A perfect ball of crimson fire erupted silently above my open palm without costing a single drop of traditional mana. The void did not destroy magic, it replicated anything the user could flawlessly visualize. Suddenly, the heavy wooden doors of the classroom were blown completely off their hinges. 3 upperclassmen wearing elite academy blazers walked in, wearing malicious grins. Their leader demanded that I hand over all my dimensional crystals as a standard registration fee. I quietly realized this must be the notorious freshman hunting ring mentioned in Kioske's scattered memories. Weak seniors preying on low-level recruits to boost their own standings was a pathetic tradition. The largest thug lunged forward, his fist wrapped in a dense layer of earth magic. I didn't bother dodging, choosing instead to test the immediate defensive capabilities of my new attribute. I imagined an absolute kinetic barrier, and a transparent purple shield snapped into existence. The thug's stone gauntlet shattered into dust upon contact, sending shockwaves through his own arm. Before they could process what happened, I manifested an invisible gravity weight directly over them. All 3 attackers were instantly slammed face first into the concrete floor by an immense pressure. I stepped over their groaning bodies, demanding to know who authorized this illegal operation. The leader whimpered beneath the gravity, stammering out the name of Director Iwako. It turned out the academy administration itself was profiting off the stolen goods of new students. This institutional corruption mirrored the exact greed that led to my betrayal 20 years ago. I decided that my path of vengeance would start by burning this tiny kingdom to the ground. I marched directly toward the top floor where the director's luxurious office was located. 2 elite guard golems stepped out from the shadows to block the massive double doors. With a wave of my hand, I synthesized a high-frequency sonic vibration blade through pure imagination. I swung once, and both heavy stone golems clean sliced into perfect halves before collapsing. The heavy ornamental doors exploded inward as I kicked them open with effortless force. Director Iwako dropped his glass of expensive wine, staring at me in absolute disbelief. He demanded to know how a worthless level 1 F-rank student bypassed his entire security system. I pulled up a chair and sat down right across from him, resting my chin on my hands. I informed him that his entire illegal freshman extortion ring had just been entirely dismantled. Iwako drew a hidden golden staff and triggered an ancient defensive magic circle under my feet. The explosive traps triggered, but I simply imagined a total cancellation field to suppress the reaction. He fell backward out of his chair, realizing his advanced Tier 4 magic was utterly useless. I leaned forward and told him he had exactly 2 choices if he wanted to survive the night. He would sign an immediate recommendation transfer for me to the elite Lanzig Academy in Germany. Second, he would hand over all confidential intelligence regarding the Holy Pentagram's current global operations. Trembling violently, the corrupt director grabbed the pen and signed his name without hesitation. I picked up the signed documents and the data drive, a cold sense of triumph washing over me. Suddenly, the data drive in my pocket hummed violently and projected a red warning hologram into the air. The voice of my former comrade, now a high saint of the Pentagram, echoed from the terminal. The automated message stated that the global purification ritual had just been moved ahead of schedule. This meant my timeline for gaining power had just been drastically cut down to mere months. If I failed to dominate Lanzig Academy quickly, the world would burn before my revenge even began. The cold wind of Germany bit into my face as I stood outside the massive iron gates of Lanzig Academy. This strict meritocracy valued absolute magical power above all human dignity. They expected a weak transfer student with a void attribute to crawl on his knees. Instead, I stepped through the main doors with the intention of tearing down their hierarchy. The Sublime Celestial Festival began the very next morning within the colossal arena. Senior students smirked from the balcony, eagerly waiting for the foreign failure to falter. My first opponent stepped into the center circle, channeling a massive vortex of crimson flames. I raised a single bare hand, calling upon the formless essence of the void attribute. Through pure imagination, I reconstructed an ancient, long-forgotten Tier 7 elemental fusion art. The fused plasma bolt tore through the arena, instantly obliterating his fiery vortex. The crowd fell into a stunned silence as the elite mage crashed heavily into the wall. I did not even look back as his unconscious body was carried out by the medical team. The academy directors panicked at my unexpected dominance and decided to forcefully change the rules. They activated a forbidden underlying mechanism, summoning a hidden boss into the festival grounds. The ground violently trembled as the arena floor split open down the middle. From the dark depths rose a legendary skeleton dragon, its massive ribcage burning with purple necromantic flames. Screams erupted throughout the stadium as the beast let out a deafening, soul-shaking roar. I stood completely still, right in front of the colossal monster, analytical thoughts racing through my mind. I recognized this exact creature from my previous life as the ultimate time hunter. The skeleton dragon lunged forward, sweeping its massive skeletal tail to crush me into dust. I leaped high into the air, dodging the devastating strike by a fraction of an inch. While airborne, I visualized the absolute compression of hydrokinetic and thermal energy. "Shatter to pieces, old relic," I whispered as I slammed the two elements together. A catastrophic steam explosion spear ripped downward, piercing the dragon's central core. The legendary skeleton dragon violently shattered into millions of harmless bone fragments. I landed smoothly on the cracked ground, my breathing steady despite the immense mana consumption. Suddenly, a familiar heavy pressure descended upon the stadium from the upper walkway. I looked up to see a tall man clad in pristine silver armor with a golden greatsword. It was Ingolf, my former close comrade and rival from 20 long years ago. But his eyes were completely vacant, glazed over with a faint purple tint of memory distortion. The holy Pentagram had brainwashed him, turning a proud warrior into their loyal puppet. "You do not belong here, anomaly," Ingolf said, pointing his golden blade directly at my chest. I realized standard words would never reach him through that thick layer of brainwashing magic. He moved in a flash of golden light, closing the massive gap between us in a millisecond. His massive golden greatsword swung downward with enough force to split a mountain. I crossed my void daggers, blocking the tremendous strike right above my head. The sheer physical weight of his attack sent a sharp, agonizing shockwave straight through my arms. I needed to strike his mind directly, not just engage in a mindless physical brawl. I pushed back with a burst of void energy, forcing him to take 3 steps backward. Instantly, I channeled our shared memories into a specialized, targeted conceptual strike. As the beam connected, Ingolf violently clutched his helmeted head, letting out a pained scream. The distorted purple veins inside his pupils began to crack and shatter under the mental overload. To ensure his survival from the backlash, I orchestrated a strategic draw by overloading my own current mana core. The resulting massive dual elemental backlash blew both of us to opposite sides of the stadium. As the smoke slowly cleared, I saw Ingolf staring at me with a sudden flash of true recognition before he collapsed. The festival was abruptly declared a draw, but my main objective of breaking his mental chains was fully achieved. However, my actions had finally drawn the direct attention of the ultimate mastermind behind everything. A dark message magically materialized in the air right before my eyes, written in glowing blood-red letters. The text revealed that Claudia was currently waiting for me at the core of Bourjou Tower. If I did not arrive in time, she would initiate the final calamity ritual to sacrifice millions of innocent souls. I sprinted across the rain-slicked rooftops of the Mediterranean metropolis, keeping my eyes locked onto the massive silhouette of Bourjou Tower. The spatial energy within my fingertips pulsed violently, humming with the familiar resonance of the void attribute. Suddenly, 2 agile figures emerged from the dense shadows of a nearby alleyway, their weapons raised defensively. I raised a single hand to signal peace, immediately recognizing the lingering mana signatures of hidden resistance survivors. Ren lowered his twin daggers slightly, his silver hair catching the faint blue hue of the distant city lights. Beside him, Yuki deactivated the humming energy cores of her heavy mechanical gauntlets, letting out a tense breath. We quickly exchanged tactical layouts of the Grand Tower, mapping out the precise locations of the ritual cultists. Claudia had already begun channeling the global calamity ritual, draining the vitality of the earth to cement her godhood. I instructed Ren and Yuki to infiltrate the lower chambers to locate and destroy the core containment artifact. With a synchronized nod, the two resistance fighters vanished into the darkness, leaving me to face the mastermind alone. I shattered the reinforced glass dome of the tower's apex, dropping directly into the grand throne room. Claudia looked up from her pedestal, her beautiful face twisting into a mocking smile at my sudden entrance. She sneered at my current form, completely unaware that the soul of the hunter she betrayed 20 years ago stood before her. Without uttering a word, she unleashed a torrent of holy spears that crackled with corrupt divine energy. I stood perfectly still, extending my left hand to manifest a localized field of pure void magic. The incoming spears disintegrated into absolute nothingness the moment they touched the boundary of my spatial zone. Claudia's eyes widened in sheer disbelief as she witnessed her ultimate defensive magic fail instantly against a mere teenager. I took a single step forward, letting my suppressed mana flood the entire room like in physical weight. I whispered my true name, Misado, watching the color completely drain from her treacherous face. She staggered backward, recognizing the terrifying aura of the time attribute hunter she thought she had destroyed forever. Before she could call for her royal guards, I slammed both hands onto the ground to trigger my ultimate spatial spell. A massive extra-dimensional pocket dimension erupted, swallowing both of us into an endless void of floating debris. Claudia desperately swung her dark crucifix, unleashing chaotic waves of corrupted mana to shatter the pocket dimension. The void absorbed her desperate attacks effortlessly, turning her prideful magic into mere fuel for my spatial realm. Deep within the lower chambers of the tower, Ren bypassed the final security magical arrays with his twin blades. Yuki charged forward, her mechanical gauntlets roaring with maximum kinetic energy as she reached the calamity artifact. The dark artifact pulsed with an unholy frequency, attempting to tear open the dimensional veil across the entire planet. With a definitive battle cry, Yuki slammed her reinforced fist directly into the center of the dark crystal core. Back in the pocket dimension, Claudia clutched her chest in sudden agony, as the connection to her global ritual shattered completely. I manifested a translucent, multi-elemental energy blade, the blade reflecting the decades of suffering caused by her greed. She begged for mercy, her holy saint facade dissolving into that of a pathetic coward trying to cling to life. I reminded her that mercy was a luxury she denied to millions of innocent people over the last 20 years. I swung the blade downward, unleashing a tidal wave of pure void energy that severed her connection to existence. Her body and her dark crucifix shattered into harmless cosmic dust, scattered across the infinite expanse of the void. The pocket dimension collapsed gently, returning me to the ruins of Bourjou Tower's upper throne room. Ren and Yuki emerged from the lower levels, smiling broad as the dark clouds over the city finally began to clear. The oppressive weight that had choked the world for 2 decades vanished, replaced by a cool, refreshing breeze. I looked down at my hands, realizing the burning desire for vengeance had finally been replaced by absolute peace. The era of the corrupt holy pentagram had officially ended, leaving humanity to forge its own destiny. Turning my back on the ruins, I walked forward into the bright future, my long-awaited retribution finally complete.